September 1944, above Borneo, Major Richard Ira Bong eased his P-38 Lightning into a shallow dive. The twin Allison engines purring with 3,000 combined horsepower as he scanned the sky below through his bulletproof windscreen. Japanese fighters were climbing desperately toward a formation of American B-24 Liberators, unaware that one of the deadliest fighter pilots in American history was already positioning himself above them. What the Japanese pilots didn't know was that the unassuming farm boy from Popple, Wisconsin, now tracking them through his gun sight, had already destroyed dozens of enemy aircraft in aerial combat. By the war's end, he would achieve 40 confirmed victories, making him the highest-scoring fighter ace in United States history, a record that remains unbroken even after 80 years. This is the story of how a mild-mannered young man from northern Wisconsin became America's deadliest fighter pilot. How a pilot who struggled early in training transformed into a precision instrument of aerial warfare. And how the combination of natural talent, relentless training, and one of the most lethal fighter aircraft ever designed created a legend in the Pacific theater. The path to 40 victories didn't begin with natural aggression or a warrior's instinct, but with something far more mundane: disciplinary problems and unauthorized aerobatics in California. Hamilton Field, California, 2nd Lieutenant Richard Bong, freshly graduated from Luke Field in Arizona with limited flight time, was still learning the P-38 Lightning when he made decisions that nearly ended his career before it began. Reports indicate he performed unauthorized low-altitude aerobatic displays over the San Francisco area that violated Army Air Force regulations. His commanding officer, General George Kenney, was not amused. The reprimand was immediate and severe. However, Kenney, one of the most perceptive commanders in the Pacific theater, saw something in the young pilot: exceptional aircraft control, spatial awareness, and reflexes that operated with remarkable speed. Instead of grounding Bong permanently, Kenney assigned him additional training and kept him under observation. What Kenney recognized was that Bong possessed qualities that separated good pilots from exceptional ones. Excellent depth perception, the ability to calculate deflection angles instinctively, and composure under stress. These were skills worth cultivating. By September 1942, Bong was assigned to the 9th Fighter Squadron, 49th Fighter Group, deploying to New Guinea as part of the 5th Air Force. He carried limited combat experience, while the Japanese, by contrast, had been fighting continuously since 1937. Their pilots, veterans of China, the Philippines, and brutal air battles across the Pacific, made them formidable opponents. The odds on paper favored the enemy. December 1942, above Buna, New Guinea. Bong's first combat missions. P-38s from the 9th Squadron climbed to intercept Japanese bombers escorted by Zero fighters. Lieutenant Bong, flying wing position, watched as enemy formations materialized against the clouds. Mitsubishi bombers, protected by the highly maneuverable A6M-0, filled the sky. The P-38 Lightning was unlike anything the Japanese had encountered. With its twin-boom design, twin engines, tricycle landing gear, counter-rotating propellers that eliminated torque, 4 50-caliber machine guns, and a 120-meter cannon mounted in the nose for devastating concentrated firepower, it offered unmatched power. With top speeds exceeding 400 mph and a service ceiling above 40,000 ft, it could outrun and outclimb most Japanese aircraft. However, maneuverability. The Zero could turn inside the P-38 at lower speeds. Japanese pilots, experts in low-speed dogfighting, exploited this advantage ruthlessly. American pilots who tried to turn with the Zeros often perished quickly. Bong didn't attempt to turn. His early victories came when he learned to use the P-38's strengths: speed, altitude, and firepower. His nose-mounted weapons created a concentrated cone of destruction, and when enemy aircraft were caught in this zone, the results were often catastrophic. Bong's combat reports were understated, listing the altitude, engagement conditions, and outcomes with minimal embellishment. What became clear during his early missions was his understanding of how to fight in the P-38. Don't turn. Don't try to dogfight. Use speed, altitude, and firepower. Position carefully. Fire precisely. Over the next 3 years, he would refine this philosophy into a system of remarkable efficiency. The P-38 Lightning, designed by Lockheed's legendary engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson, was a revolutionary aircraft that required equally revolutionary tactics. Its twin Allison V-1710 engines delivered performance that seemed extraordinary to pilots used to single-engine fighters. However, the aircraft had quirks that killed inexperienced pilots. The counter-rotating propellers eliminated torque, but created unusual handling characteristics. The turbo-superchargers were temperamental. Most dangerously, the P-38 suffered from compressibility in high-speed dives. Shockwaves would form on the wings, causing control problems. Dozens of American pilots died learning these limitations, but Bong mastered them. His tactical evolution happened rapidly. By early 1943, he had multiple confirmed victories and a growing reputation as an exceptional marksman. Other pilots fired long bursts, expending large amounts of ammunition. Bong fired short, precise bursts. His gun camera footage showed consistent patterns: patient stalking, careful positioning, brief firing passes, and immediate disengagement. Major Thomas Lynch, Bong's squadron mate and fellow ace, described Bong's technique as patient and precise. Bong would position himself carefully, sometimes maneuvering extensively for advantage, then close to effective range and fire-controlled bursts. His ammunition efficiency was notably superior to average pilot performance. The key to Bong's success was deflection shooting, the ability to calculate where a moving target would be when the bullets arrived, not where it was when fired. Most pilots struggled with these calculations. Bong's ability to make these adjustments instinctively, moving controls smoothly and effectively, set him apart. July 1943, above Leyte, New Guinea. Bong's victory count continued to climb. A formation of Japanese bombers, escorted by Zeros, attempted to attack Allied positions. American fighters climbed to intercept. The engagement demonstrated Bong's evolving tactical sophistication. Instead of diving immediately, he positioned his flight with an altitude advantage. He waited for gaps in defensive coverage, moments when bombers were exposed. Then he struck, diving from altitude at high speed. Bong's P-38 attacked before defenders could react effectively. He engaged bombers with concentrated firepower. The combined output of 4 machine guns and 1 cannon could destroy aircraft rapidly when accurately aimed. Bong's approach emphasized converting altitude into speed, making high-speed attack passes, then climbing back to altitude for another engagement. Japanese fighters with superior maneuverability at lower speeds often couldn't intercept the faster P-38s using these tactics. Multiple kills in a single mission became a regular occurrence. Bong's ammunition expenditure per kill remained remarkably low compared to the average pilot's performance. American formations using Bong's tactics often experience favorable results with minimal losses. Japanese forces analyzing combat reports from American pilots observed certain patterns in their tactics: attacking from altitude, quick engagement and disengagement, and precision targeting. The Japanese also noted Bong's P-38, marked with the name Marge, after his girlfriend from Wisconsin. By November 1943, Bong had 21 confirmed victories, positioning him as one of America's leading aces. General Kenny personally awarded Bong the Distinguished Service Cross and sent him on a war bond tour back in the U.S. The American public celebrated the young pilot, recognizing his success against Japanese forces, but Bong requested to return to combat. By March 1944, he was back in New Guinea, flying the upgraded P-38J, which featured improved engines, better cockpit heating, and hydraulically boosted ailerons for better high-speed maneuverability. Japanese air forces, now struggling to replace their losses from years of attrition, were now fielding pilots with limited training. American pilots like Bong had extensive flight hours and thorough gunnery training. The experience gap had grown substantial. By April 1944, above Hollandia, New Guinea, Bong was leading bomber escort flights. Intelligence reports indicated numerous Japanese fighters attempting to intercept American strike packages. Bong's tactical approach continued to evolve. He would position his formations strategically, maintain altitude superiority when possible, and time his attacks to exploit the vulnerabilities of the enemy. These tactics often led to favorable kill ratios. Bong continued adding to his victory total while effectively leading defensive operations for bomber formations. His combat technique emphasized several key principles. Maintain energy advantage through altitude. Use speed for rapid engagement and disengagement. Exploit the P-38's concentrated firepower, and avoid engaging in turning fights, which negated the American advantages. Head-on attacks required nerve and precise timing. Engagement windows were brief, with most pilots breaking off early. Bong's willingness to maintain his attack runs gave him a consistent edge. When Japanese fighters tried diving escapes, Bong would pursue, using his P-38, which could maintain high speeds in dives that many enemy aircraft couldn't safely match. His ammunition efficiency remained exceptional. Though specific round counts varied, Bong's confirmed kills per sortie and his ammunition usage were significantly better than average. By June 1944, Bong's victory count reached 28, surpassing Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record of 26 and making him the highest-scoring American ace. Initially, General Kenny prohibited Bong from regular combat missions, deeming him too valuable to risk. Frustrated, Bong pushed to return to operations. Kenny eventually relented, though with restrictions. Bong could fly, but primarily as a flight leader on high-priority missions, with experienced pilots providing cover. Kenny sought to protect his most successful ace. These restrictions didn't slow Bong's kill rate significantly, as flying priority missions often meant encountering capable enemy pilots and defeating them. October 1944, above Balikpapan, Borneo, a large-scale Japanese counterattack targeted American bombers striking oil refineries. Bong, leading a group of P-38s, climbed to. Intercepting enemy forces, Bong's tactical approach focused on positioning his formation with the sun advantage and altitude superiority. He timed his attacks when enemy fighters were focused on bomber targets. His initial attacks were highly effective, destroying multiple enemy aircraft rapidly, but as the war progressed, Japanese forces began using more coordinated responses. During one such engagement, Bong's aircraft sustained combat damage, including engine hits. While most pilots would have disengaged immediately, Bong feathered the damaged engine, activated the fire suppression system, and continued to engage using only single-engine power. The P-38, designed with redundancy, could fly and fight on one engine. Although performance was significantly reduced, Bong persisted in the engagement, scoring additional kills before returning to base on compromised systems. Ground crews assessed extensive damage to his aircraft, but despite predictions that it would be combat ineffective, repairs were made, and Bong successfully flew the repaired fighter again. By December 1944, Bong had 40 confirmed victories. General Kenny, acting on orders from General Douglas MacArthur, permanently grounded America's top ace. Bong had become too valuable as a symbol and training asset to risk further combat. His final combat mission occurred on December 17, 1944, during a patrol that resulted in no enemy contact. He returned to the United States as America's highest-scoring fighter pilot, recipient of the Medal of Honor, and a national hero. However, the statistics only tell part of the story. Bong's true impact went beyond the 40 aircraft he destroyed. His contribution lay in the bomber crews he protected, the ground troops who received air support from his missions, and the tactical innovations he pioneered, which became standard doctrine for American fighter pilots in the Pacific. His gunnery techniques were integrated into training manuals, and his tactical approaches, using altitude advantage, attacking from favorable positions, Exploiting the P-38's strengths and avoiding its weaknesses became foundational fighter doctrine. New pilots studied his gun camera footage and combat reports. Japanese pilots who survived the war and were later interviewed spoke of facing highly skilled American pilots who effectively used altitude, speed, and concentrated firepower. They acknowledged the difficulty of countering the precision and tactical discipline of Bong and his fellow pilots. Letters to his fiancée, Marge revealed Bong's thoughtful nature, understanding the gravity of his role. In his correspondence, Bong reflected on his focus to do his job effectively, protecting bomber formations and supporting ground operations. The P-38 Lightning is regarded as one of the most successful fighter designs in history. Over 10,000 were produced during the war, serving in every theater. In the Pacific, with pilots who understood how to exploit its characteristics, the Lightning became highly effective. The twin-engine configuration provided redundancy that improved survivability, and the tricycle landing gear enhanced ground handling. The nose-mounted weapons eliminated convergence issues found in wing-mounted guns, while turbo superchargers delivered high-altitude performance that many Japanese fighters couldn't match. The concentrated firepower, 4 50-caliber machine guns combined with a 20mm cannon, offered impressive destructive capability at effective ranges. When accurately aimed, this firepower could destroy enemy aircraft rapidly. Bong, with his exceptional marksmanship and deflection shooting skills, achieved remarkably short engagement times, making him a formidable opponent in the skies. Gun camera footage reviewed by Army Air Force experts showed that Bong's hit percentage was extraordinarily high compared to that of average fighter pilots. While exact percentages varied in different analyses, his accuracy was consistently noted as exceptional, far exceeding typical pilot performance. On August 6, 1945, at Burbank, California, Major Richard Bong, who had recently married Marge and was assigned as a test pilot for Lockheed, was conducting acceptance flights on the new P-80 Shooting Star jet fighters, America's first operational jet aircraft. The P-80 represented the future of aviation, with a jet engine producing 4,000 pounds of thrust, speeds exceeding 500 mph, and cutting-edge technology that made piston-driven fighters obsolete. Bong was transitioning from P-38s to jets, learning an entirely new flight regime. That afternoon, while on a test flight, Bong's P-80 suffered a catastrophic fuel pump failure shortly after takeoff. The engine failed at low altitude, leaving insufficient time or altitude for recovery. Bong attempted restart procedures but was unsuccessful. He tried to reach the runway but couldn't make it. In the final moments, he attempted to bail out, but the altitude was too low. The P-80 crashed, and Major Richard Ira Bong, America's ace of aces, died instantly at 24 years old. The same day, an American B-29 bomber named Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. News of Bong's death received limited coverage beneath the headlines, announcing the dawn of the atomic age. 80 years later, Richard Bong's record of 40 confirmed victories remains unbroken, and it likely will remain so permanently. Modern air combat, dominated by beyond-visual range missiles and radar-guided weapons, will never again produce the close-range dogfighting that characterized World War II aerial combat. The young pilot who faced disciplinary issues early in his career became a legend by mastering fundamentals, patience, precision, and effective deflection shooting. He didn't rely on aggression or recklessness, but on calculated positioning and flawless execution. Every engagement reflected careful planning, and every kill resulted from proper positioning and accurate fire. At the Richard Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior, Wisconsin, visitors can view his Medal of Honor, his flight logs documenting 200 combat missions, and displays honoring his service. A restored P-38 with Marge nose art represents his wartime aircraft. General George Kenney, who recognized Bong's potential and supported his development, later wrote that Bong was the most effective fighter pilot he had observed. Kenny noted that Bong's approach emphasized precision and technique rather than aggression, making his effectiveness seem effortless through the consistent application of sound tactical principles. The battlefields where Bong earned his 40 victories are now peaceful, with the wrecks of Japanese fighters having long since deteriorated into tropical soil. But the record remains. The young man from Wisconsin who became America's deadliest fighter pilot, the ace of aces who turned precision and discipline into highly effective combat performance, and the pilot who proved that in aerial combat. Superior technique and consistent execution produce exceptional results. With 40 confirmed victories, survival through 200 combat missions, and complete success in air-to-air engagements, the numbers tell the story. The record speaks for itself. Nearly 8 decades later, no American pilot has surpassed what Richard Ira Bong accomplished during Pacific combat, achieving exceptional precision in aerial warfare through careful positioning and accurate fire from the most successful American fighter ace in history.